So we're joined from Dallas, Texas, by my friend Ebony Butler, founder of Leadership Focused Solutions, speaker, motivator, educator. Just so grateful for you to be with us today. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. This is our personal finance class, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time for us today to talk about setting young people setting themselves apart and being leaders as they matriculate through high school and start making decisions for their careers.
Most definitely. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, just calling on me and asking me to be a part of this wonderful conversation and experience. And so, Greg, I really appreciate it. Thank you. And whenever you're ready, I'm ready to talk to the young people.
Oh yeah, we're not going to pull any punches. But just give us a little background about you focus a lot on leadership in the workplace. You help people that already have the job. You help people get jobs. But tell us how you got into this and kind of your background and how you got so passionate about developing leadership, not only in young people but in corporate America as well.
Yeah, thank you. At the age of 5, I knew I would speak and teach. I don't know, well, I know what it was. And I'll just say that something landed on me at the age of 5, that I would speak and teach and someone would listen. And I remember going to my mommy at the age of 5 and I said, Mommy, I'm going to speak and I'm going to teach. And she said, I know you are, baby. And so that is what I remember that day. I've always been passionate about teaching. And as I started to teach, I started to be more passionate about knowledge transfer because I think it's different. Really understanding how knowledge permeates and shifts behaviors is one of my major focuses. And I must say that a lot of this also even comes from my upbringing, right? My upbringing of being born into a home where it was, young parents, and also then being raised by a young mom. And I had to take on adult responsibilities at a young age. And then that's what obviously led me to caring for my brother at a young age and then caring for children by the age of 25. I had 3 children. And so it was a lot of different challenges, adversities, and most importantly, some great lived experiences that I've been able to infuse into learning and relate to people. And when I think about it, I was even just looking back, and I'm not tooting my own horn, and I will say this, I was looking back at some survey results. I was speaking last week at Dallas Christian College. So speaking to youth, I partner with a company, an organization, the Academy Group, and it's speaking with alumni. And what I really realized is that I have been blessed to be able to relate to anyone from our younger generation, our alpha generation, our Gen Zers, which are probably more here, and then, of course, up to the C-suite. And so being able to do that has also helped me, coupled with my lived experiences.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned your lived experience because I was watching one of your many of you. There's all type of content online where you speaking, and again, I know you're not bragging, but you've done some great things, and that's kind of what you talked about because you said I was 24 with 3 children, and I downplayed that as like it was normal. I didn't do enough to build confidence in saying, look, you were able to do this, so I should be able to do this. So talk about what you see young people kind of talk themselves out of things. And then, before I was watching that, or after I was watching that, I was waiting at the airport to pick up my friend, and she was mentioning things about, well, I want to do this, but I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm smart enough. So talk about the obstacles that you see people have that say, look, you've already done this, so you should be able to do this.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things and the biggest takeaway I hope young people to really walk away with is valuing their experience and valuing their experience regardless of what the world tells us is right or wrong. Valuing your unique experience. When I peel back the onion and I really start to think through things, I think one of the reasons I was able to navigate corporate space as well was that I knew who I was. And as I talk, and I just have to add this one piece in. When I said that back when I was young, I knew that I would speak and teach, it was the Spirit. And I will also just say this quickly, when we know who we are in Christ Jesus, it just helps us to know who we are and recognize that any opportunity, any experience, it is meant for us. When we start to recognize that, we know why we are in the room. We know why we're not in the room. And we know what to say to get in the room. We know what to say to create allyship so that people can start to support us and understand us. We know what skill set we need to really dive into because we recognize from our experiences challenges that other people experience. And so when we take our experiences, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, and we see the golden pieces in it, it's powerful. I think about the fact that by the age of 24, I had 3 children. I was a single mom. Most people marginalize me, and I'll just be honest with you, even my friends' parents, because by me being 17 and pregnant, that was not cool. And I am not saying that it is at all. However, what I will say is that me having young children at an early age, it taught me how to do leadership and understand that you have to meet people where they are, and how you communicate with one person, you don't communicate with the other person the exact same way. And so when I go into interviews and I'm talking to people, I'm bringing in my lived experiences that help them to understand that this isn't a skill I just learned today. This is who I am because of lived experiences. And so, ladies, and I believe we have one gentleman,
Yep.
I will share with you, you have to recognize the golden pieces in every experience you have.
Yeah, and you talk about getting into that space and you talk about the communication. I know you have set in literally thousands of interviews. You've helped even more people learn how to interview.
Yeah.
And look, and I've told you this before we were recording, and I'll tell you this on a recording. I have some seriously high achieving students in here with me today. And before we came on, we were going through again all the things they want to do. All the things they want to do are going to require advanced degrees, and I don't have any doubt that they'd be able to handle um, the academic requirements of that. But what sets people apart is being able to communicate, being able to walk into a room, introduce yourself, and say, "Hey, I'm the solution." Because I think the media kind of puts, we always hear DEI. People are just getting the job because of X, Y, Z. Well, once they get the job, no matter how they got to prove that they belong there.
Yeah.
Because you may have gotten hired because they needed to fill a spot, but if you're not good at it, they're going to find somebody else to fill the spot.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gets glossed over a lot is that once you get there, you have to prove that you belong. You have to be the solution. You've got
Yeah.
to learn to work with everybody. You've got to be able to work with clients. You've got to be able to not be scared to speak and sell not only yourself, but whatever your company is doing or whatever. If you're an entrepreneur, what you're selling.
Yeah.
And they get so upset that I
Yeah.
make them get up here and present.
Yeah.
And I don't do it to be mean. I'm just trying to get them that skill of, look, you're already extremely intelligent. You've got all the drive it takes to be a great student. But what's going to set you apart when it comes to being a leader?
Greg, thank you for mentioning that. And I'll share this other piece that I share when I'm talking about interviewing. I have never been a recruiter. However, I've always been a hiring manager. And so if I might need 2 people on my team, I might be a part of a panel. And I'll tell you, there are a couple of things that we do when we're interviewing you. For me, I will put an asterisk or a plus at the top of the paper. That means I want to hear more. Or guess what? I'm going to put a frown face, or I'm going to put a triangle, and that means a no-go. So do you want the triangle that means a no-go? Or do you want the smiley face or the star that means I want to hear more? Let me tell you what helps me to want to hear more is exactly what you just said. The information that goes beyond your credentials. Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you, oftentimes we show up to everything in a performative way. What do I mean?
Oh,
We
yeah.
walk in with our skill sets in our hands. This is what I can do. This is what I can do. And I get it. But I'll tell you that You're telling me the same thing that everyone else that's interviewing for that same role, they have the same what they can do experience. They have the same credentials. What I need to know is about your head and your heart. Most of the time, you don't walk into the room with just your hands. You walk in with your mindset and you walk in with your motivation. And so, what does that mean? I need to know you, your lived experiences, your personality. That's what'll differentiate you from the other people that applied with the same credentials as you. And so you have to remember that everything you want in every room, you want to be the pattern shifter, the pattern interrupter. And the pattern interrupter will allow me to get to know them versus like everyone else. I just can see what school you went to, what your grades were. Most of the time, that's about the same for everyone. And so you want to be a pattern interrupter.
Yeah, and even simple things, making being conscientious enough to check the grammar of your resume. You, taking enough initiative to write a cover letter.
Yes.
Even if you didn't ask for one, you're going to see, hey, they took enough initiative to write, and I see how they write. Even if
Yes.
they used AI to help them, at least they had enough sense to make sure there weren't any mistakes. So it really is the small things that set things apart. Any moron can show up looking professional and on time, but the little things is what's going to make people stand out when they're getting in front of somebody for that job.
I agree. I agree. Thank you for that. And those are those unique pattern interrupters that shift the pattern. Because if I've interviewed 8 people, oh, okay, I know I'm about to hear about this skill again. Okay, I know I'm about to hear about this experience again. But what shifts it is when you let me know how you think and what motivates you. And that's all about your living experiences and how you're connecting those experiences to value in the workplace. Yeah.
Now, and I know you speak on this a lot, even for people that already have a job. One of the biggest challenges that I've faced here, as much as I love this community and as much as I love this school, the confidence level of these kids seems to get lower and lower every day. I've shown things to say, look, you're just as great and just as intelligent as these kids you see in other parts of the state, but still, it's just a matter of them believing they can do it. And look, I'll be the first person to tell you, and I know we talked about this. Um, Access and resources were not always there. Opportunities for decades in rural communities, especially rural black communities, Mississippi, they were not there for people. And that's not their fault. People cannot help where they were born.
Right.
However, times have changed, opportunities have changed. There's never been a greater time to make something of your life. Something they hear me say a lot, if you want your life to change, you got to be the one to change it. Just
Yeah.
because your grandparents didn't have a chance, they didn't have the opportunity, doesn't mean you can't have the opportunity. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean you can't be the first at it. And
Yeah.
I always say you can be the first, but you can be the best too.
Yeah.
So, what types of things have you seen that has improved the confidence of young people? Because, like I said, I've got immense amounts of talent and intellect in this room with me right now. But I think what is missing in all of them is confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are a couple of things. The first thing, what we've already talked about, is really go back and think about all of your lived experiences, good, bad, or indifferent, and be able to understand how those experiences, what did you learn from it? And how has that learning shaped you? So that's one thing. The other thing would be to, especially with you all going into the workforce, you're going to be going into the workforce, interacting with at least 3 generations, like consistently. So it'll be like your millennials, your Gen Xers, which is me, and then maybe your baby boomers, maybe your baby boomers. And so, really being able to understand what motivates all of them. There are some, and this is what I shared actually last week when I was talking at Dallas Christian. Let's just face it, there are some biases of young people in the workplace. There are biases of young people in high school. There are biases there, right? Entitlement, lack professionalism, no loyalty, all that other kind of stuff. But those biases stem from our generations where we thought we were flexing in. We thought, okay, we're loyal, we're hardworking. And so we just sometimes just see others as the opposite. Why do I tell you that? I tell you that because you want to shift the pattern of how people see you in the workplace. You want to shift the pattern of how people see you at college. You want to shift the pattern. And the way to do that also is to understand what's important to those different generations. You're going to work with millennials who might be your professor, baby boomers who might be your professor. How can you understand what's important to them and be able to connect with them based on that? Showing you're agile and you're flexible and you're authentic. And so that's another thing is about being able to shift your communication so you can better connect with other people. And then also allyship. That's going to drive allyship. They're going to help you to be able to move forward and open doors. The other thing I would say as it relates to confidence would be take out a card one day or take out a piece of paper and maybe for a whole month I encourage you to write down everything you're excited about within yourself. Everything, everything. All the wins, when you meet a new person, when you make someone smile, you have to really write that stuff down and reflect on it. And then your thought should be, how do I take this to college? How do I take this when I'm interacting with my high school teachers? How do I take this when I interact at work? You just have to really understand how awesome and valuable you are. And it will start to encourage you. It'll encourage you. And the other thing I want you to remember, especially like sometimes when we are coming from like smaller towns, rural towns, oftentimes to your point, maybe don't feel like we have enough resources and all of this. But one of the things I want you to understand is that a lot of organizations now are really focused on authenticity. Authentic relationships normally are built within people in a smaller community. Them being able to be agile, flexible, and resilient when it comes to resources in which they pull on to get things done. And so being resourceful, being flexible, being engaging, being authentic, it's so many awesome characteristics that come, and you can use those elements as motivators and um, confidence boosters as well.
Now, also, I wanted to talk about, once you get in the space, because like I said, and I know I keep bragging on them. I've got some high achieving students with me. They're not going to have any problem. They aren't confident right now, but once they get that confidence and they get into college and they start nailing these GPAs, nailing these internships, they're going to find their place there. So,
Mhm.
what can they do to make sure once they get there that they're standing out and making sure that people know they were the right choice?
Yes. Okay. So I actually, and I can send this to you because I have a like a handout, and it speaks directly to that. Just some additional things. So if you see me looking over, it's because I had to make note of it so I wouldn't
That's
forget it.
fine.
So here's some things that'll help you to stand out. First off, take all of your classes seriously. And this part, you don't have to worry about taking copious notes because I'm going to send this exact thing to Greg. So you want to think about how will the disciplines and the skills you gain today prepare you for your future. And so that's one thing. Now, I know you're thinking, well, how will that help me to be a standout? When you get into your college courses, maybe you all are talking about the Big Bang Theory. I don't know, just a topic, right? If you really start to be cognizant, aware, and start to reflect now on what you're learning and how that applies outside of the four walls where you've learned it, it'll help you to have thoughtful conversations. It'll help you to ask curious questions. And so that's the first thing. Take your classes seriously, build authentic relationships because those relationships will help to open doors for you. Research all of your options. So when you think about where you want to be, start to research it. What are the pros? What are the cons? That helps you to stay away from this thing called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is where you only research something that aligns with your own perspective. Every perspective that's important to you, ladies and gentlemen, flip it on its head. Give you an example. If you feel that the color blue is the best color in the world, flip it on its head, turn it to red, right? And so take a concept. Maybe you really believe in this concept, flip it on its head. What will that do? It'll give you more information so you can make more informed decisions. It allows you to be more curious. It allows you to ask questions of your professors that are thought provoking, that'll cause them to even pause. It's just great stuff. Explore your interests. That do as many things as you can, as many hobbies, garden, whatever it is, so you can understand where your passion really is. And then develop your online presence. Okay. And the reason that's so important is because then I want you, and maybe one day I'll get a chance to talk to you all about how you develop your professional presence. Okay. But really think about what is your online presence. If someone looks at your post, your TikToks, or whatever it is, if they look at it, what would that say about you? Think about it.
Yeah, and before I get to their questions, I did want to talk about that because every hiring manager that's ever worked in anything HR has always said, you can think that we can't find it. There are literally people that their job is to find you to show them. So look, and look, I know they're in high school and they want to do all the funny stuff and I I like watching the funny videos too. I like that, I like following the athletes, but if everything that you have on your social media is you twerking or holding up guns or and something that I've talked about recently, if every single thing that you post is political, no matter what side it's on, people don't want to bring that in the workplace. They don't want somebody that's going to be so divisive that half the people there are going to be mad at them. And
Yeah.
then they really don't. And I use this example too, and this is true. A couple of years ago, I wasn't even trying to find this person. I was looking through a TikTok of something that had happened, and I see he had shared it and it had a bunch of cuss words on it. And I wasn't even looking for him. And the next day at school, I was like, dude, I found this. I wasn't even trying to find it. And he got about 10 shades of red.
Yeah.
Said, man, I said, see, I said, you're about to go to college and you're going to be applying for this stuff. And it was that easy for me to find it. And I wasn't even trying.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. So
Yeah.
it is so important to manage that now. And look, the thing is, well, I don't want to be lame. Well, would you rather be lame or would you rather be rich?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Great point. Thank you.
Well, I do have some questions, and these are really good. This person is Azaya Ray. She's in 11th grade, wants to go
Okay.
to Mississippi State University and be a clinical therapist.
Oh,
And we're talking about some of the options she would have after that, because obviously that's one where you would need a master's degree, but I don't think she'd have any problem getting the master's. But she's also a member of our band. And she asked, oh, and she just found out today she made a 25 on the ACT, which is an unbelievable score. So she was very happy about that. So definitely wanted to brag on her about that as well. But she asked, what is the best advice you've ever received?
oh man. Okay, this is the advice. It's a quote, and here it is. Um, a smart man, hold on, let me get it. A smart man learns from what other people do. A wise one learns from what no, 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 I'm so sorry. Hold on, y'all. Now it's bothering me. It's bothering me because basically what it is that, and I used to tell my children this, so I'll sum it up. And now it's bothering me. I can't remember the quote. What it is that oftentimes we feel like we have to learn. Here it is. A smart man learns from doing it, and a wise man learns from hearing it. Basically, what it is that I think that a lot of times, and I would even say I was like this with my children. You gonna have to learn by going through it. And I think that that's the way we're conditioned to think. You learn something by going through it. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, I will share with you, learn from listening to people. You don't always have to go through everything other people went through. So don't feel like I just got to learn it by doing it myself or I have to learn it and experience it myself. Yeah. And you can learn when you open your ears up, you hear from wise people so you don't have to go through the same challenges, hiccups, and mistakes as everyone else. Yeah.
That
Yeah. That's a
that's a great quote. I'm stealing it. This is Elijah Dawson, the one young man in here with us today. He's in 10th grade. And he
okay.
asked, you mentioned about the challenges of being a young mother. What were some of the other ups and downs that you had, and how did you overcome them?
Really nice. The ups and downs, I think a lot of it has to do with just my upbringing. By the age of 7, I was on the DART bus, and here in Dallas, DART is like the city, the public transportation. So I was going to and from school. I was staying at home by myself. Once I started to have the children, I was in an abusive relationship with their father, right? All three of the children have the same daddy. It was a high school sweetheart that turned into a high school nightmare. And so that was a challenge, obviously, just getting myself and my children away from them. And then, of course, just, away from him, sorry. And then, of course, just really trying to navigate life. And also, my mom got sick. And so trying to take care of her and my children at the same time while I was struggling financially. It was a lot of hardships, a lot of hardships. And I'm
But where you are
thankful.
doesn't have to define where you end.
Because now they're
And,
grown.
yeah, and I've kind of shared with them sometimes. I know what it's like to lose everything.
Yeah.
When I was 28 years old, I lost everything. I didn't become a teacher until I was 30. So I
Mm,
know, I know what it's like too. And I always had to remember one day it's all going to be worth it. And
yeah.
then once you overcome that, it is amazing how appreciative you are of everything you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have time for two more. This is Jasmine McBride. She's in 10th grade, wants to go to Georgia State University in Atlanta, and wants to be a psychotherapist.
Okay.
And she asked, "What led to you being able to be so confident in your speaking and in your career?"
So it does go back to at the age of 5, I knew I was going to speak and teach. I guarded that. So I want you all to think about some of the things people always tell you you're good at now. Guard whatever that is. So at the age of 5, people used to say, Ebony, I'll give you a quarter if you'll just say this. So at the age of 5, I knew it was something with the speaking. So whatever yours is, guard it. What do I mean? Guard it, protect it. Don't let anyone take it away from you. The other thing is what helped with confidence there, opportunities always open for me to do that thing. So you think about whatever you know that people are always saying, you're so good at this. Maybe it's researching, maybe it's singing, maybe it's whatever it is. But when doors always open up to it, it helps to boost your confidence because you know that you're moving according to your plans, according to the plan. And so the opportunities, and then of course the feedback that I always received helped me to be confident. And I'm also still learning. So even though I've been teaching and speaking for a long time, I know I haven't arrived. And that's the other thing. Don't ever feel you've arrived because when you feel you arrived, you stop learning, you stop growing. And so you want to always be investing back into that thing that gives you life, gives you passion, and gives you desire.
Love it. Well, I got one more. This is Zakiria Chambers. She's in 10th grade, wants to be in real estate, but also is getting her IT certifications in high school, which,
Oh,
like, where was that when we needed it? I mean, we
right.
have our kids have the opportunity to graduate high school with IT certifications. But she asked, you said you wanted to speak and teach when you were 5 years old. Did you ever want to do any other career?
Did it. And now this is, I'll tell you, I didn't. And I think that that is one of the small advantages I have is that I remember hearing it and I haven't deviated from it. Even when maybe I used to be in collections. I would
Oh,
collect on credit card accounts at that time. Then of course I still use my voice. I probably wasn't up on stage and I still use my voice to connect with people. And so for the most part, I honed in on it and I stayed with it.
love it. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. But a couple things before we go. First of all, leadershipfocussolutions.com. That is your website. All the links to your socials are on there. And we talk about building that confidence. Find people like yourself to follow that are going to put some positive things into your life. Everything you watch on social media doesn't have to be a funny video or somebody doing something stupid. Find people that are positive to talk about uplifting things. And it is amazing how that will change your confidence. So leadershipfocussolutions.com is your website.
Yes. Thank you.
And then the last thing before we go is, you know, you mentioned how you faced overwhelming odds as a high school student. You were, plenty of no's, plenty of obstacles, but yet look at you now, speaking all over the country, mentoring thousands of people, helping tons of people find their dream, achieve their dream, and become what they didn't even think they could. So obviously, it can be done.
Yeah.
So as these kids start matriculating through high school and college and their careers, what can they do to prepare themselves for those obstacles that they're going to face and be just as successful as someone like you?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say, and I hate to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, and I'll just say, just know who you are. Value your experiences. Um, Anticipate the no's. Because if you start off always getting yeses, it's not going to help you to develop. No's develop you. So anticipate it. And keep moving forward. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep moving forward. You all will be wildly effective and successful in everything you want to do. Everything. Yeah.
I have no doubt if you just knew the amount of ability in this class, you'd
Yeah.
you'd believe that even more. But I just thank you so much for taking some time for us. I don't see how anybody couldn't get something out of this. And the next time I'm in the Dallas area, I'm going to get together with you. But we thank you so much for joining us all the way from Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
Founder of Leadership Focused Solutions, Ebony Butler. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye.